"I can hear your thoughts," said the human girl. "Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel." In the gleaming central chamber of the Galactic Council, 13-year-old Emily Parker stood alone, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the known universe. The massive circular room hummed with energy, its crystalline walls reflecting the glow of 1,000 stars. Before her, towering 3 meters tall on an elevated platform, sat Emperor Zarek of the Thalassian Empire, his scaled skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that shifted with his mood. Emperor Zarek leaned forward, his massive frame dwarfing the small human girl. His lips curled into what passed for a smile among his species, revealing rows of diamond-hard teeth. "What an amusing claim from such a primitive species," he said, his voice echoing throughout the chamber. "Humans barely mastered interstellar travel a century ago, and now this child claims telepathy?" The gathered council members, representatives from the 12 most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, erupted in laughter. Some slapped appendages against their seats. Others flickered their bioluminescent patterns in amusement. The Thalassian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, their mental abilities and technological prowess unmatched by any known species. Emily remained motionless, her small hands clasped before her in the formal posture she had been taught. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her green eyes remained fixed on the Emperor. She wore the simple gray uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps Junior Ambassador Program, with a small holographic badge displaying Earth's emblem, a blue sphere wrapped in a laurel wreath. "You're thinking about the Arcturus Rebellion," Emily said suddenly, her voice clear and unwavering despite her youth. "You're worried that what happened there might happen again here, on Centauri Prime." The laughter died instantly. Emperor Zarek's bioluminescent patterns shifted from amused blues to alarmed reds and oranges. "You're also thinking about your daughter, Larissa. You're worried about her upcoming ascension ceremony because she hasn't shown signs of the telepathic abilities required to rule." Emily continued, her face remaining neutral despite the growing tension in the room. "And you're thinking that if word gets out, the other high houses might challenge your right to the throne." The Emperor's massive hand slammed down on the arm of his throne. "Guards, remove this human at once." 2 Thalassian royal guards moved toward Emily, their plasma weapons humming to life. Before they could reach her, Ambassador Catherine Rhodes stepped forward from the Earth delegation's observation area. "Emperor Zarek, may I remind you that harming a diplomatic representative, even a junior one, would violate the Treaty of Proxima Centauri," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Article 7 specifically protects all members of diplomatic missions, regardless of age or status." The Emperor's eyes narrowed to slits, but he raised a hand, stopping the guards. "This display changes nothing, Ambassador Rhodes. The trade negotiations will proceed as planned. The human child's parlor tricks do not impress us." But everyone in the chamber could see the Emperor's bioluminescent patterns betraying his agitation. What the human girl had revealed were state secrets known only to his inner circle. The Arcturus Rebellion had been ruthlessly suppressed, all records purged from public access. And his daughter's lack of telepathic ability was his most closely guarded secret. "We will take a recess," the Emperor announced suddenly. "The Council will reconvene in 3 standard hours." As the chamber emptied, Ambassador Rhodes hurried to Emily's side. At 42, Rhodes was a seasoned diplomat with salt and pepper hair, cropped short for practicality, and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She had served on 6 different alien worlds and was known for her unflappable demeanor, which was now noticeably rattled. "Emily, what were you thinking?" she whispered urgently, guiding the girl toward the Earth delegation's private chambers. "We've spent years building diplomatic relations with the Thalassians. This isn't what we discussed." Emily looked up at the ambassador, her young face suddenly showing the strain of what she had done. "I'm sorry, Ambassador Rhodes, but they weren't taking us seriously. I could hear all of them thinking we were just primitive monkeys who got lucky with our technology." The Emperor was planning to agree to the trade deal and then impose additional tariffs once our ships were committed to the routes. Rhodes stopped walking and stared at the girl. You actually heard that? In his thoughts. Emily nodded. I hear everyone all the time. It's why my parents sent me to the special school on Luna. I couldn't function on Earth with billions of thoughts pressing in. She looked down at her hands. The Psy-Core training helps me block most of it out, but alien minds are different. Louder somehow. Especially the Thalassians. Ambassador Rhodes led Emily into a secure room where the rest of the Earth delegation waited anxiously. The room was designed to block all forms of surveillance, with quantum encryption fields and signal jammers built into its very walls. What happened out there? Asked Security Chief Blake Turner, a tall man with military bearing and a perpetually serious expression. The Emperor looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. Emily just changed our entire negotiating position, Rhodes said, gesturing for the girl to sit. Apparently, she can read Thalassian thoughts. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the 13-year-old girl. That's impossible, said Dr. Nathan Brooks, the delegation's xenobiologist. His silver-rimmed glasses slid down his nose as he leaned forward. Thalassian brains operate on completely different principles than human ones. Their neural pathways use quantum entanglement for communication. We've studied their biology for decades and never found any way to interface with their thought patterns. Emily shrugged. I don't know how it works. I just hear them. All of them, all the time. She looked exhausted suddenly, the strain of maintaining her composure in the council chamber taking its toll. The Emperor was the loudest. His thoughts were like thunder compared to everyone else's. Ambassador Rhodes paced the room, her mind racing through diplomatic protocols and potential fallout scenarios. If what Emily says is true, and the Emperor's reaction suggests it is, we have a situation of unprecedented significance. No species has ever been able to read Thalassian thoughts. Their telepathic abilities have given them an insurmountable advantage in negotiations for millennia. It's more than that, Emily said quietly. They're afraid of us. Not just because of me, but because of how quickly humans have advanced. They've been watching us since we first split the atom. The Emperor thinks we're dangerous because we evolved too quickly, both technologically and biologically. Chief Turner's eyes narrowed. How would you know that? You've only been in the Emperor's presence for 30 minutes. I told you I hear them all the time. Emily tapped her temple. The guards, the counselors, even the servants. They all think about it. Humans are scary to them. Unpredictable. Most species take thousands of years to develop the technologies we mastered in centuries. Dr. Brooks removed his glasses, polishing them nervously with a handkerchief. If Emily can truly read Thalassian thoughts, it would explain certain anomalies we've observed in human psionic development. There have been theories that human consciousness operates partially outside normal space-time, which would allow for. Save the scientific theories for later, Ambassador Rhodes interrupted. We need to decide what to do next. The Emperor knows we have this ability now, or at least suspects it. He won't take that lying down. The delegation fell into intense discussion, debating options ranging from immediate withdrawal to leveraging Emily's abilities for better trade terms. Throughout it all, Emily sat quietly, occasionally wincing as she picked up stray thoughts from beyond the room's shielding. Meanwhile, in the Emperor's private chambers, Zarek was in a towering rage. Artifacts and furniture lay shattered around the room, victims of his powerful telekinetic outbursts. Impossible, he roared, his personal advisors cowering before him. No human could possibly penetrate Thalassian mental barriers. High Counselor Dren, the Emperor's most trusted advisor, stepped forward cautiously. The evidence suggests otherwise, Your Magnificence. The human child knew things that only you could know. Then we have a security breach. A spy in my inner circle. The Emperor's bioluminescence flashed dangerous patterns of red and black. That is one possibility, Dren admitted. But our security scans detected no conventional surveillance devices on the human delegation. And the child's neural patterns were unusual. Explain, demanded the Emperor, his massive frame looming over the advisor. Our standard telepathic scans could not penetrate her mind, Your Magnificence. It was as if she existed partially outside our perception. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. The veil phenomenon. Dren nodded slowly. It is possible. The ancient texts speak of species that could perceive beyond the veil, but none have been encountered in recorded history. If humans possessed this ability, the Emperor said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, they represent a threat greater than any we have faced in 10,000 years of rule. What are your orders, Your Magnificence? Emperor Zarek turned to the viewport, gazing out at the countless stars of his empire. After a long moment of contemplation, he spoke. Prepare my private shuttle. I will speak with this human child myself, away from the Council's prying eyes. And Dren, activate Protocol Omega. If what I suspect is true, we must be prepared for the worst. High Counselor Dren paled, his bioluminescent patterns dimming in shock. Protocol Omega? But Your Magnificence, that hasn't been implemented since the hive mind incursion 3,000 years ago. And now we face a threat potentially greater than the hive mind, the Emperor said grimly. Humans have always been an anomaly, advancing too quickly, adapting too readily. If they now possess abilities that can breach our mental defenses, they cannot be allowed to return to Earth with this knowledge. As the Emperor's shuttle prepared for departure, Emily sat bolt upright in the Earth delegation's quarters, her face draining of color. Emily? What is it? Ambassador Rhodes asked, immediately concerned. The Emperor, Emily whispered, her voice shaking. He's coming here. And she looked up at Rhodes, genuine fear in her eyes for the first time. He's going to kill us all. Ambassador Rhodes reacted instantly. Blake, initiate emergency protocols. Nathan, gather only essential equipment. We need to be ready to evacuate in 5 minutes. We won't make it to our ship, Emily said, still listening to distant thoughts. He's locked down all departures. And he's bringing something called a mind flayer? I can't quite understand what it is, but they're all terrified of it. Chief Turner was already accessing the station's security feeds through his neural implant. Confirmed. All bays are locked down. And there's movement in the Imperial Guard quarters. They're mobilizing. Ambassador Rhodes knelt before Emily, placing her hands on the girl's shoulders. Emily, I need you to focus. Can you tell me exactly what the Emperor is planning? Emily closed her eyes, her face a mask of concentration. He thinks I'm something called beyond the veil. It's some ancient concept in their religion or science, I can't tell which. He's afraid of what it means that humans can do this. Her eyes flew open. He's planning to dissect me to find out how my brain works, then eradicate all humans as a precautionary measure. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So much for diplomatic relations, Chief Turner said grimly, checking his sidearm, a non-lethal neural disruptor that was the only weapon allowed in diplomatic contexts. We need to contact Earth immediately, Ambassador Rhodes said, moving to the secure communications terminal. They need to know what's happening here. The comms are already jammed, Emily said, her eyes unfocused as she listened to distant thoughts. The Emperor ordered it 5 minutes ago. Dr. Brooks had been quietly working at his portable terminal. I've been analyzing the station's security systems. There might be a way to reach the emergency shuttle bay on level 47. It's reserved for council members during crises. And how do you suggest we get there? Chief Turner asked. The corridors will be crawling with Imperial guards in minutes. Emily stood up suddenly. I can help with that. I can hear where all the guards are positioned. And, she hesitated, I think I might be able to do more than just hear thoughts. Rhodes looked at her sharply. What do you mean? At the Academy on Luna, they've been teaching us to project thoughts, not just receive them. I've never tried it on aliens before, but she straightened her shoulders with determination beyond her years. I can try to make the guards not notice us. Chief Turner looked skeptical. That's a big risk to take. Do we have a choice? Rhodes asked, checking the security feeds again. Imperial guards were already assembling outside their wing of the diplomatic sector. No, Turner admitted. We don't. Within minutes, the small Earth delegation was moving through the service corridors of the massive space station. Emily walked at the center of the group, her eyes half closed in concentration as she tracked the thoughts of every Thalassian in their vicinity. Twice they had to hide as patrols passed, and once Emily had raised her hand, concentrating fiercely as a guard looked directly at their hiding spot, then turned away, his thoughts confused as Emily projected the image of an empty corridor into his mind. "How are you doing?" Rhodes whispered as they paused at a junction. Emily's face was pale with strain. "It's hard. Their minds are structured so differently. But I'm learning as we go." She pointed left. "This way. There's a maintenance elevator that can take us down to level 47. As they hurried through the dimly lit corridors, Dr. Brooks kept glancing at Emily with a mixture of scientific fascination and concern. "What you're doing should be theoretically impossible," he whispered. "Thalassian minds use quantum entanglement for communication. You'd need to be able to influence quantum states directly with your consciousness." "Not now, Nathan," Rhodes hissed. They reached the maintenance elevator, a simple platform designed to transport repair drones and occasionally station workers. As they descended, Emily suddenly gasped, clutching her head. "What is it?" Rhodes asked urgently. "The Emperor," Emily whispered. "He knows we're trying to escape. He's in my head somehow. Fighting back." She grimaced in pain. "He's very strong. Can you block him?" Turner asked, readying his weapon. "I'm trying, but—" Emily's nose began to bleed, a thin trickle of red against her pale skin. "He's had thousands of years of practice. I've had 3 years at the academy." The elevator came to a halt at level 47, the doors sliding open to reveal a long, curved corridor lined with emergency lighting. At the far end would be the shuttle bay and possible escape. "We need to hurry," Rhodes said, supporting Emily as the girl struggled to maintain her mental defenses against the Emperor's probing. They had made it halfway down the corridor when a section of the wall ahead of them slid open, revealing Emperor Zarek himself, flanked by 4 royal guards. The Emperor's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with anger and something else, triumph. "Ambassador Rhodes," the Emperor said, his voice deceptively calm. "Attempting to leave before our negotiations are complete? How discourteous." Rhodes stepped forward, positioning herself between Emily and the Emperor. "Your Magnificence, there seems to be a misunderstanding. We were merely—" "Spare me your diplomatic lies," Zarek interrupted. "We both know what the child can do, and we both know why that cannot be allowed to exist." He gestured to his guards. "Take the child. Kill the others." The guards raised their weapons, not the standard plasma rifles, but something more sinister, crystalline devices that emitted a low, pulsing hum. "Mind flayers," Emily whispered, recognizing them from the Emperor's thoughts. "They don't just kill, they erase your consciousness completely." As the guards advanced, Chief Turner moved with lightning speed, firing his neural disruptor at the nearest one. The guard staggered but didn't fall. Thalassian physiology was resistant to the human weapon's effects. Dr. Brooks pulled a small device from his pocket, a scientific scanner that he quickly reconfigured, sending out a pulse of electromagnetic energy that temporarily disrupted the guards' weapons. It wouldn't last long, but it bought them precious seconds. Ambassador Rhodes activated her emergency beacon, a last resort device that would signal to any Earth vessels in the sector that diplomats were in mortal danger. It was a direct violation of treaty to activate it without cause, but these circumstances certainly qualified. Through it all, Emily stood motionless, her eyes locked with the Emperor's. Blood now flowed freely from her nose, and a thin trickle emerged from her left ear as well. The psychic battle between them intensified, invisible to the others but devastating in its power. "You cannot win, human child," the Emperor said, his voice strained as he pushed against her mental defenses. "I have devoured minds more powerful than yours." Emily said nothing, pouring all her energy into resistance. In her mind, she could see the Emperor's consciousness, a vast, ancient presence that spread like a dark nebula, trying to engulf her comparatively tiny human mind. But where the Emperor's mental presence was vast, Emily's was dense and bright, like a neutron star compared to his gas giant. Fascinating, The Emperor said, genuine surprise in his voice as he struggled against her. You truly are beyond the veil. Your consciousness doesn't operate in normal space-time at all. The guards had recovered from Dr. Brooks' electromagnetic pulse and were advancing again. Chief Turner had managed to disable one with a lucky shot to a neural cluster, but the other three closed in, their mind flares humming with deadly energy. Ambassador Rhodes stood protectively in front of Emily, though she knew she could do little against Thalassian technology. Dr. Brooks was frantically working on his device, trying to generate another disruptive pulse. You cannot escape, the Emperor said, still locked in mental combat with Emily. Even if you somehow managed to reach a shuttle, the station's defense grid would destroy you before you cleared the docking ring. Emily suddenly straightened, blood streaming down her face, but determination hardening her features. You're right, she said, her voice echoing strangely in the corridor. We can't escape. Then, to everyone's shock, she smiled. But I wasn't trying to escape, Emperor Zarek. I was stalling. The Emperor's bioluminescent patterns shifted to confused yellows and oranges. Stalling? For what? As if in answer, the space station shuddered violently. Emergency alarms began to wail, and the lighting switched to crisis mode, pulsing red bathing the corridor in an eerie glow. That would be the Earth Defense Fleet dropping out of FDL, Emily said, her smile growing despite her obvious pain. A fleet that's been on standby ever since we detected your Protocol Omega activation. The Emperor's eyes widened in shock. Impossible. There was no communication. I don't need communication devices. Emily tapped her temple, leaving a smear of blood. Quantum entanglement works both ways, Your Magnificence. While you were trying to break into my mind, I was sending a message to my twin sister on the EDS Intrepid. Ambassador Rhodes looked at Emily in shock. You have a twin? With the same abilities? There are 17 of us at the Academy now, Emily said, never taking her eyes off the Emperor. All with varying degrees of the same talent. I'm just the strongest, which is why they sent me. The station shuddered again as another warning klaxon joined the first. Your Magnificence. A panicked voice came over the Emperor's communication device. Earth warships have surrounded the station. They're demanding your immediate withdrawal from Council space and the release of their diplomatic personnel. The Emperor's face contorted with rage. This is an act of war. No, Emily said, her voice stronger now despite her physical weakness. This is a rescue mission and a demonstration. She took a step toward the Emperor, and remarkably, he took a step back. Humans don't want war, Emperor Zarek. We never have. But we will not be dissected, studied, or exterminated because you fear what we might become. The mental pressure from the Emperor suddenly ceased as he reassessed the situation. With Earth warships surrounding the station, his position had changed dramatically. What do you want, human? He asked, his voice cold with suppressed fury. Ambassador Rhodes stepped forward, recognizing her cue. The same thing we came here for, Your Magnificence. Fair trade agreements, cultural exchange, and peaceful coexistence. Nothing more, nothing less. And if I refuse? Emily answered before Rhodes could speak. Then every Thalassian secret, every vulnerability, every hidden weakness that I've gleaned from your mind and the minds of your people will be transmitted to Earth. Her voice was matter-of-fact, without malice. I don't want to do that, but I will if you force our hand. For the first time in perhaps 1,000 years, Emperor Zarek of the Thalassian Empire found himself without leverage. He had ruled through telepathic advantage and military might for millennia. Now, faced with a species that could match both, he had no choice but to reconsider. It seems, he said finally, his bioluminescent patterns shifting to thoughtful blues, that the trade negotiations have taken on new importance. Emily nodded, then collapsed, the strain of the mental battle finally overwhelming her. Dr. Brooks caught her before she hit the floor. Emily needs medical attention immediately, he said urgently. The Emperor observed the unconscious girl for a long moment, then made a gesture. One of his guards stepped forward, producing a small crystalline device. This will stabilize her neural pathways, the Emperor said. The psychic backlash from our confrontation would kill an untrained mind within hours. Ambassador Rhodes looked at the device suspiciously. Why would you help her? The Emperor's bioluminescent patterns shifted to colors Rhodes had never seen before, perhaps indicating emotions unique to Thalassians. Because, Ambassador, your young telepath was correct. War between our species would benefit neither of us. He looked down at Emily's unconscious form. And because in 10,000 years of rule, no being has ever matched me in mental combat. There is respect in that. As Dr. Brooks applied the crystalline device to Emily's temple, Chief Turner received confirmation that Earth ships had docked with the station and that Marine units were on their way to secure the Earth delegation. The standoff between humanity and the Thalassian Empire had reached a turning point. And as Emily Parker lay unconscious, her mind still active beyond normal perception, the future of galactic politics hung in the balance. What no one in that corridor yet realized was that this was only the beginning. Emily's abilities had opened a door that could never be closed again, a door to possibilities that neither humans nor Thalassians had ever imagined possible. And deep in her unconscious mind, connected across impossible distances to her twin sister and 15 other gifted children, Emily Parker smiled. The galaxy was about to change forever. When Emily Parker awoke, she was in the medical bay of the EDS Intrepid, Earth's most advanced diplomatic vessel. The room was dimly lit and quiet, with only the soft beeping of medical monitors breaking the silence. Her head throbbed with a dull pain, but the devastating mental pressure from Emperor Zarek was gone. "Welcome back," said a familiar voice. Emily turned her head to see her twin sister, Olivia, sitting beside the bed. Though identical in appearance, the same dark hair and green eyes, Olivia's expression was calmer, more controlled. Where Emily was impulsive and direct, Olivia had always been the strategist, carefully weighing every option before acting. "How long was I out?" Emily asked, her voice raspy from disuse. 3 days, Olivia replied, pouring a glass of water and helping Emily drink. "You pushed yourself too far. The doctors said you came dangerously close to permanent neural damage." Emily took the glass with shaking hands. "It worked though, didn't it?" The Emperor backed down. Olivia nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "More than backed down. The whole galactic political landscape has shifted. Ambassador Rhodes has been in nonstop negotiations since the incident." Emily struggled to sit up, wincing as fresh pain lanced through her head. "Tell me everything." The Emperors tried to save face by claiming this was all some elaborate test of human resilience, Olivia explained. But everyone knows the truth. The news that humans can read Thalassian thoughts has spread throughout the Council worlds. Some species are terrified, others are celebrating. The Thalassians haven't exactly made themselves beloved during their 10,000 years of dominance. A gentle knock at the door interrupted them. Ambassador Catherine Rhodes entered, looking exhausted but triumphant. Her normally immaculate uniform was slightly rumpled, suggesting she'd been working without rest. "Good to see you awake, Emily," she said warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Like an emperor tried to crush my brain," Emily replied with a weak smile. "But I'll live." "What's happening with the negotiations?" Rhodes took a seat at the foot of the bed. "We're making unprecedented progress. The Thalassian Empire has agreed to trade terms that are remarkably favorable to Earth. More importantly, they've withdrawn their opposition to human membership in the Galactic Council." Emily's eyes widened. "Really? Last I heard, they were leading the faction arguing we were too evolutionarily unstable to join." "That was before they discovered what we're capable of," Rhodes said, her expression turning serious. "Which brings me to a delicate matter. The Council has requested a formal demonstration of human telepathic abilities." Emily and Olivia exchanged glances. "Is that wise?" Olivia asked cautiously. "Probably not," Rhodes admitted. "But refusing would create more fear and suspicion than complying. The Council needs to understand the extent and limitations of our abilities if we're going to establish trust." Emily considered this. "When would this demonstration take place?" "Tomorrow," at the reconvened council session. If you're feeling up to it. Emily nodded slowly. I'll be ready. After Rhodes left, Olivia gave her sister a concerned look. Are you sure about this? You barely survived your last mental encounter with the Emperor. This time will be different, Emily said with determination. I know what to expect now. And, she hesitated, I discovered something during our mental battle. Something about how Thalassian minds work. What do you mean? Emily leaned closer, lowering her voice even though they were alone. Their telepathy isn't just communication, it's control. The Emperor doesn't just lead the Thalassians. He literally shapes their thoughts. That's how they've maintained stability for 10,000 years. Olivia looked shocked. Mind control? Over their entire species? Not exactly, Emily clarified. It's more subtle than that. He influences their perception, nudges their decision-making. Most Thalassians aren't even aware it's happening. It's built into their social structure, disguised as tradition and hierarchy. That's, Olivia searched for the right word, disturbing. It's why they're so afraid of us, Emily continued. Human minds are individual, unpredictable. We can't be controlled the way Thalassian subjects can. Olivia was quiet for a moment, processing this information. If the Council learns this, it could destabilize the entire Thalassian Empire. I know, Emily said grimly, which is why I haven't told anyone but you. The next day, Emily stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber, this time flanked by Ambassador Rhodes and her sister Olivia. The chamber was packed with representatives from all Council species, the normal diplomatic protocols abandoned in the rush to witness this historic session. Emperor Zarek sat on his elevated throne, his bioluminescent patterns carefully controlled to display calm confidence. But Emily could sense the turmoil beneath his composed exterior, fear, anger, and grudging respect swirling together in his ancient mind. The Council recognizes Ambassador Catherine Rhodes of Earth, announced the Council speaker, a willowy being from the methane-breathing Verosi Confederation. Rhodes stepped forward. Honored members of the Galactic Council, recent events have revealed certain abilities within the human species that have caused concern among our galactic neighbors. We come today in a spirit of transparency to demonstrate these abilities and to assure the Council that humanity seeks only peaceful coexistence. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. The speaker raised a limb for silence. The Council acknowledges Earth's commitment to transparency. Emperor Zarek of the Thalassian Empire has agreed to participate in this demonstration with certain safeguards in place. The speaker turned to Emily. Junior Ambassador Parker, are you prepared to proceed? Emily stepped forward, her heart racing but her expression composed. I am. A circular platform rose from the center of the chamber floor, glowing with soft blue light. Emily and the Emperor approached from opposite sides, each stepping onto marked positions. The demonstration will proceed in 3 phases, the speaker explained. First, the human will attempt to receive thoughts from volunteers among the Council. Second, a blind test with information known only to the testers. Finally, a direct mental exchange with Emperor Zarek, monitored by Council telepaths. Emily glanced at Olivia, who gave her a subtle nod of encouragement. They had practiced extensively during Emily's recovery, strengthening her mental defenses and refining her ability to filter the overwhelming flood of alien thoughts. The first phase proceeded smoothly. Emily correctly identified objects, numbers, and concepts that various Council members focused on mentally. Some species' thoughts were easier to read than others. The crystalline Letharians were particularly challenging, their silicon-based consciousness operating on principles entirely different from carbon-based life. The second phase was more demanding. Emily was blindfolded while Council security officers arranged various objects and symbols in sealed containers. She identified each correctly, though the effort left her sweating and pale. Then came the final phase. Emperor Zarek stepped onto the platform opposite Emily, his massive frame dwarfing her small human form. A circle of Council telepaths surrounded them, their minds forming a protective barrier to prevent either participant from launching a mental attack against the other. Begin, the speaker instructed. Emily closed her eyes, focusing her mind as she'd been taught at the Luna Academy. Rather than aggressively pushing into the Emperor's thoughts as she had during their confrontation, she created a passive mental field, like still water waiting to reflect any image that appeared above it. The Emperor's presence approached cautiously, probing at the edges of her consciousness. "Your technique has improved, human child," his voice whispered directly into her mind. "I had a good teacher," she replied silently. Nothing teaches like survival. Around them, the council telepaths monitored the exchange with growing amazement. What they were witnessing defied everything known about interspecies telepathy. Human and Thalassian minds operated on fundamentally different principles. Yet here they were, communicating with unprecedented clarity. "The council requests a demonstration of information transfer," the speaker announced. At that moment, a council aide approached the speaker, handing over a sealed data crystal. The speaker reviewed its contents, then addressed the participants. "Emperor Zarek, please attempt to transmit the contents of this data crystal to Junior Ambassador Parker without verbal or physical communication." The Emperor received the crystal, interfacing with it briefly through his bioluminescent skin patterns. His eyes narrowed as he absorbed the information, then turned his gaze to Emily. Emily felt the information flow into her mind. Complex mathematical equations, star charts, and quantum formulas. Unlike their previous mental battle, this transmission was controlled, precise. "The crystal contains navigational data for the Cygnus Void," Emily announced, her eyes still closed. "Specifically, safe passage routes through the quantum fluctuation zones in sectors 7 through 12. There are 17 equations describing the temporal variance patterns and their corresponding navigational corrections." The council chamber erupted in astonished murmurs. The Cygnus Void had been considered impassable for millennia, its quantum fluctuations destroying any ship that attempted to cross it. If humans could understand and utilize this information. "Correct," the speaker confirmed, silencing the chamber again. "Now, Junior Ambassador Parker, please attempt to transmit information to Emperor Zarek." Emily nodded, considering carefully what to share. This was a crucial moment, a chance to demonstrate human capabilities while also sending a message to the Emperor himself. She focused her mind, organizing her thoughts into a coherent package of information, then projected it toward the Emperor's consciousness. Not just raw data, but context, implications, and emotional resonance, the full human experience of the knowledge. The Emperor's bioluminescent patterns fluctuated wildly as he received the transmission. His massive hands gripped the edges of the platform, and for a moment, it seemed he might collapse. "The human has shared," he began, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "She has shared the full sensory and emotional experience of Earth's first contact with the Arcturus Collective. Not just the diplomatic records, but the subjective human experience of the event. Hopes, fears, misunderstandings, and ultimate understanding." He looked at Emily with new comprehension. "I had not realized the depth of human consciousness." The demonstration concluded shortly after, with the council telepaths confirming that they had witnessed genuine bidirectional telepathic communication between species previously thought to be mentally incompatible. As Emily stepped down from the platform, she felt lightheaded from the effort but triumphant. Ambassador Rhodes and Olivia quickly moved to support her. "You did it," Rhodes whispered. "You've just changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever." The following days were a whirlwind of diplomatic activity. The Council voted unanimously to grant Earth observer status, with a path to full membership within 5 Earth years, an unprecedented acceleration of the normal centuries-long process. Trade agreements were signed, cultural exchange programs initiated, and joint scientific ventures planned. The revelation of human telepathic abilities had transformed Earth from a minor newcomer to a significant galactic power overnight. But not everyone was pleased with this rapid change. Radical factions within several council species, including the Thalassians, viewed humans as an existential threat that needed to be contained or eliminated before they could fully integrate into galactic society. One week after the demonstration, Emily was resting in her quarters aboard the Earth diplomatic vessel when Olivia burst in, her face tight with worry. "We have a problem," she said without preamble. "The Emperor's daughter, Larissa, has disappeared, and they're blaming us." Emily sat up, instantly alert. "What? Why would they think we had anything to do with it?" "Because she left a message saying she was seeking help from humans to develop her telepathic abilities." Olivia paced the room anxiously. "The Emperor is furious. He's demanding her immediate return and threatening to revoke all agreements if she isn't found within one standard day." Emily closed her eyes, extending her consciousness. Since the demonstration, her abilities had grown stronger, more refined. She could now selectively focus on specific mental signatures across considerable distances. "She's not on the Earth ship," Emily said after a moment. "But she's close. I can sense her. She's frightened, but determined." Ambassador Rhodes joined them, her expression grave. "This could undo everything we've accomplished. The Emperor believes we've kidnapped his daughter to study her or use her as leverage. We need to find her before anyone else does," Emily said, standing up. "I can track her mental signature, but I'll need to move around the station to get a more precise location." Within the hour, a small search team had been assembled: Emily, Olivia, Chief Turner, and Dr. Brooks. They moved through the less populated sections of the massive space station, following Emily's psychic directions as she homed in on Larissa's distinctive mental pattern. "She's in the maintenance sector," Emily said as they descended into the station's lower levels. "Section 42C, near the primary cooling systems." The maintenance tunnels were cramped and dimly lit, designed for maintenance drones rather than humanoid species. The team made their way carefully through the maze of pipes and conduits, following Emily's lead. "Wait," Emily whispered, holding up a hand. "She knows we're here. She's scared." Emily closed her eyes, projecting calming thoughts ahead of them. "Princess Larissa, we're not here to harm you. We want to help you return to your father safely." A moment later, a slender Thalassian figure emerged from behind a cluster of coolant tanks. Princess Larissa was younger than Emily had expected, the equivalent of perhaps 16 in human years. Her bioluminescent patterns flickered nervously, and she held what appeared to be a small weapon. "Stay back," she warned, her translator converting her clicks and harmonic tones into English. "I won't go back. Not until I understand what's happening to me." Emily stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show she was unarmed. "What is happening to you, Larissa?" The young Thalassian's patterns shifted to colors indicating distress and confusion. "I hear things, thoughts that aren't mine. It started after you confronted my father. Suddenly, I could hear the servants, the guards, even my father sometimes. But it's chaotic, painful, not like proper Thalassian telepathy." Emily and Olivia exchanged startled glances. This was unexpected and potentially revolutionary. "You're developing telepathic abilities," Emily said gently, "but different from traditional Thalassian telepathy. You're hearing thoughts directly, without the quantum entanglement framework. Is that possible?" Larissa asked, lowering her weapon slightly. Dr. Brooks stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "Theoretically, yes. If the human form of telepathy operates on principles that transcend normal space-time, as we suspect, then exposure to it might activate latent neural pathways in compatible species." In other words, Olivia explained more simply, contact with Emily's mind might have awakened something in yours that was always there, just dormant. Larissa's bioluminescent patterns shifted to thoughtful blues. The ancient texts speak of a time before the Empire, when Thalassians communed with the universe in ways lost to us now. She looked at Emily intently. "My father fears you because you represent something we once were, before the imperial bloodline established control. Control through selective breeding of telepathic abilities," Emily said, the pieces falling into place. "Your father's lineage has maintained power by ensuring only the imperial family has certain telepathic capabilities. But what if those abilities were just one expression of something more fundamental in Thalassian biology?" Larissa stepped closer, her fear giving way to fascination. You understand. That's why I had to find you. My father would never allow this knowledge to spread. It would undermine 10,000 years of imperial rule. Chief Turner, who had been watching the entrances to their section, suddenly gestured for silence. We've got company. Imperial guards, at least 6 of them, moving this way. They've found us, Larissa said, panic returning to her voice. My father will never believe I came willingly. He'll think you kidnapped me, just as he's been telling the council. Ambassador Rhodes, who had been monitoring the situation from the Earth vessel, spoke through Turner's communicator. Emily, you need to get Larissa back to her father immediately. The situation is escalating. The Emperor has ordered the station locked down and is threatening military action. Emily made a quick decision. Larissa, we'll help you understand your abilities, but first we need to resolve this crisis. Will you come with us to meet your father? The young Thalassian hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but he won't listen. Not to me, and certainly not to you. He might, Emily said, a plan forming in her mind. If we give him no choice but to hear the truth. Rather than trying to evade the Imperial guards, Emily led the group directly toward them. When the guards discovered them, weapons raised, Emily stepped forward confidently. Princess Larissa wishes to return to her father immediately, she announced. We found her in the maintenance section and are escorting her back. The guards were suspicious but couldn't refuse a direct path to resolving the crisis. They surrounded the group, half escorting and half detaining them as they made their way to the Emperor's private chambers. Emperor Zarek was waiting, his massive frame vibrating with barely contained fury. His bioluminescent patterns flashed dangerous reds and blacks as they entered. Father, Larissa said, stepping forward before anyone could speak. I went to them. They didn't take me. I need you to listen. Silence. The Emperor roared, his telepathic anger blasting through the room like a physical force. Emily and Olivia winced at the psychic onslaught, but stood their ground. These humans have corrupted you somehow, turned you against your own people. That's not true, Larissa insisted. They've helped me understand what's happening to me. What's been happening since they arrived. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? What have they done to you? Emily stepped forward, despite Chief Turner's warning hand on her shoulder. We've done nothing, Your Magnificence. Your daughter is experiencing the awakening of natural Thalassian abilities, abilities that have been suppressed in the general population for millennia. The Emperor's patterns shifted to alarmed oranges. Impossible. The Imperial bloodline hasn't just maintained telepathic abilities, Emily interrupted boldly. It's controlled them, limited them to specific forms that support Imperial rule while suppressing others that might threaten it. Larissa moved to Emily's side. Father, I can hear thoughts now. Not just receive directed telepathic communications, but hear actual thoughts, like the humans do. And I'm not the only one. Since the humans arrived, there have been reports throughout the empire of Thalassians developing new mental abilities. The Emperor seemed to age before their eyes, his massive shoulders slumping slightly. So it begins again, he said quietly. The awakening. You knew this could happen? Larissa asked, shocked. It is written in the Imperial Codex, accessible only to the Emperor, Zarek said, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Every few thousand years, Thalassian telepathic abilities evolve, expand beyond the controlled parameters. The last time was during the reign of Emperor Vresh, 7,000 years ago. What happened then? Dr. Brooks asked, unable to contain his scientific curiosity. Civil war, the Emperor said simply. As Thalassians awakened to their full telepathic potential, the carefully maintained social order collapsed. Billions died before Emperor Vresh established the protocols of mental harmony, the selective breeding program that stabilized our telepathic abilities within controllable parameters. Emily understood now. You're not just afraid of humans. You're afraid of what contact with humans might trigger in your own people. The Emperor's bioluminescent patterns shifted to resigned blues. The protocols have maintained peace and prosperity for 7,000 years. Without them, chaos returns. Or evolution, Olivia suggested quietly. Change doesn't have to mean destruction. Larissa approached her father, placing a hand on his massive arm. Father, I can learn to control these new abilities. The humans can help us. All Thalassians transition safely as these changes spread. The Emperor looked down at his daughter, then at the humans who had unwittingly triggered a transformation that he had spent his entire reign trying to prevent. You don't understand what you've begun, he said, but the anger had faded from his voice, replaced by weary resignation. Thalassian society is built on mental harmony, controlled telepathic connections that unify our people across 27 worlds. If that harmony fractures, then something new will take its place, Emily said with the directness that had become her trademark. Something that includes individual thought alongside collective connection, like humanity has. For a long moment, the Emperor was silent, his ancient mind weighing millennia of tradition against the inevitable tide of change that the humans had set in motion. Perhaps, he said finally, it is time for the Empire to evolve as well. In the months that followed, the galaxy witnessed an unprecedented transformation. The Thalassian Empire announced reforms that would gradually decentralize power, allowing for greater individual expression while maintaining the benefits of their telepathic connection. Emily and Olivia Parker became the first directors of the newly established Interspecies Telepathic Research Institute, working closely with Princess Larissa and other Thalassians experiencing the awakening. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Council in record time, with Ambassador Rhodes appointed as humanity's first High Representative. Human ships began exploring routes previously closed to them, and human scientists collaborated with alien counterparts on technologies once deemed too advanced for the primitive newcomers. On the one-year anniversary of the historic confrontation between Emily Parker and Emperor Zarek, a formal ceremony was held in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. Representatives from all member species gathered to witness the signing of the Telepathic Rights Accord, a document that would protect the mental sovereignty of all sentient beings while establishing protocols for beneficial telepathic exchange. Emily, now 14, stood beside the Emperor on the signing platform. Though still a child by human standards, she had become one of the most respected diplomatic figures in the galaxy, her unique abilities and straightforward approach cutting through centuries of political obfuscation. 1 year ago, the Emperor addressed the assembled dignitaries, his bioluminescent patterns displaying formal ceremonial blues. I believe that human telepathic abilities represented a threat to the established order of the galaxy. He paused, his massive head turning to look down at Emily. I was correct, but not in the way I had feared. A ripple of appreciative laughter moved through the crowd. Change is inevitable, the Emperor continued. The question is whether we resist it until it breaks us, or whether we guide it toward a better future for all. Today, we choose the latter path. As Emily watched the Emperor sign the accord with a ceremonial stylus, she allowed herself a moment of pride. In just 1 year, humanity had gone from galactic newcomers to partners in shaping the future of interspecies relations. And it had begun with 6 simple words spoken in this very chamber. I can hear your thoughts, said the human girl. Later, at the reception following the ceremony, Emily found a quiet moment with Ambassador Rhodes. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Emily asked, watching the diverse species mingling peacefully around them. Rhodes smiled, the lines around her eyes crinkling. In diplomacy, we're taught to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. I think this qualifies as better than the best we could have hoped for. Emily nodded, then suddenly tensed, her eyes going unfocused for a moment. What is it? Rhodes asked, immediately concerned. A ship just dropped out of FDL at the edge of the system, Emily said, her telepathic senses now extending far beyond what anyone had thought possible. It's different. Not from any species we know. Rhodes straightened, her diplomatic instincts kicking in. First contact? Are you sure? Emily nodded, a smile spreading across her face. Absolutely. And they're curious about us. Very curious. I should alert the council, Rhodes said, already moving toward the communication terminal. "Wait," Emily called after her. "There's something else you should know." Rhodes turned back. "What?" Emily's smile widened. "They're telepathic too, different from both humans and Thalassians. And they've been watching us for a long time, waiting for the right moment to introduce themselves." As alarms began to sound throughout the station, announcing the approach of an unknown vessel, Emily Parker looked up at the crystalline ceiling of the reception hall, beyond which lay the infinite expanse of stars. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had anticipated. New species, new abilities, new possibilities emerging with each passing day. And humanity, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, now stood at the center of it all, not because of their technology or their military might, but because of their unique perspective and their surprising mental abilities. "Ready to meet our new neighbors?" Emily asked as Ambassador Rhodes returned with Emperor Zarek and the council speaker. "Lead the way," Rhodes said with a smile. "After all, you can already hear what they're thinking." And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.